So why did I fire my financial advisor? Are you a high-income professional? Do you have a financial advisor? Are you thinking of hiring one? I think you need to be educated enough to differentiate what's good advice versus bad advice. And here are a few examples. I want to share some extremely horrible advice I got over the years from my financial advisor and how I finally got rid of him, and now I'm happy to manage my own finances. Hi and welcome to the Money Matters MD show. My name is Dr. Abhishek Gadre. I'm a practicing pulmonary and critical care physician, and I absolutely love to talk about personal finance topics. So today we're going to talk about why I fired my financial advisor. So this is my wife and my story, and this goes about 10 years back. We got married and we were around third year residency, and we knew that money is important, but it was kind of a black box. We didn't really know too much about it, and we knew just enough that if we're not paying attention to it, we need some advice on it. So we basically went ahead and hired a financial advisor. I'm not gonna name him or her. I'm not gonna put any identifiers out there. I'm just gonna call him Joe. So here's the first bad piece of advice Joe gave us. When we first got married, we started out in a significant amount of student debt. So our net worth at the time was around negative $268,000. And this was scary. So before residency, it was around $210,000 negative, and it was around 7.5% APR, the interest rate on the student loans. And it grew over 3 years to like $268,000. Just over 3 years, it grew more than $50,000. That is scary. And the first piece of advice we got from Joe is, hey, don't worry about your student loans, just start investing with me. And that just didn't sit right with me naturally or my wife, and we just instinctively said, 7.5% is a significant amount of interest rate, and we just kind of want to go ahead and start paying it off because it's only growing at a significant pace in 3 years. So we basically, after residency, both of us became hospitalists, and it took us about 15 months to pay the whole thing off. And we lived like a resident. We didn't spend anything extra at all after becoming attendings. And after that, again, I went on a fellowship and my wife stayed as a hospitalist. But we're till date really happy to just get rid of those student loans. So I think it should be a more personalized decision and depend on the interest rate that you have on your particular loans and what kind of job you're looking to go into after you graduate. And I think it's not just a one-way advice, just that start investing and keep paying the minimum. I think it should depend on your own personal preferences as well. Bad advice number 2. So Joe basically sold us a whole life insurance policy. And he said, this is a great product and it builds equity slowly and then you can spend money out of it in retirement. And we basically bought into this plan, and we were spending $1,000 a month into this plan. And we almost spent about 3 years buying into this, and we actually saw our money sunk. We invested around $36,000, and by the end of 3 years, we had $27,000 in this plan. And the rest of the money was basically gone to commissions to basically him and the insurance company. And my rough estimate, is around 50% of the first year payments entirely went to commissions. The whole life insurance policy is basically a policy meant to be sold, not really to be bought. It's a complicated product. It's basically a hybrid between a life insurance product and an investment product combined into one. And your money is basically stuck behind all these rules and regulations, and you can't really touch your money, and it doesn't grow really fast. You're much better off just buying a cheap, low-cost term life insurance plan and investing the difference. The whole life policy is just a ridiculously expensive way of buying life insurance, and most people in most situations don't need it. And we eventually, ended up selling out of that policy for a loss. But I'm glad we did it that way, and I'm just glad not to be stuck in a policy for the rest of my life that I don't like. Bad advice number 3. Joe recommended that we invest our money in actively managed mutual funds. He even recommended a very specific mutual fund company, and he said he will charge around 0.75% AUM fee, which is assets under management fee. On top of it, you'll pay the mutual fund expense ratio as well. He said, you can actually beat the S&P 500 really easily if you invest in this particular fund. And He never even told us about what index funds were or ETFs were. Well, later I learned that, you really don't want to try to beat the market. You just want to be the market. You just want to buy cheap index funds or broadly diversified ETFs, which will be much better off. Bad advice number 4. He introduced us to something called a loaded mutual fund. Now, if you've never heard about it, that's great. What a loaded mutual fund is, they'll charge you like up to 6% of your money that you're bringing in. So let's say we started out with $100,000 in investment. He came to us as if this was just like a once in a lifetime opportunity and said, hey, you invest this 100K with us. All you have to do is just, pay $6,000 in fees, and the rest of the money will be invested in this amazing market beating mutual fund. And that's what a loaded mutual fund is. Well, you're much better off investing in a no-load, low-cost index fund and not really try to beat the market and just be a part of the market. And just thinking about it, till date, I can't believe that I bought into a loaded mutual fund. Bad advice number 5, unnecessary expensive disability insurance policy. So I was going out there to buy my disability insurance policy, and I compared 5 or 6, the top tier players that you're supposed to buy disability insurance from, and they're pretty identical and the language was pretty similar. And he convinced me to buy this particular insurance company policy that he only sells. And this particular policy was $100 a month more compared to the other products that I was looking at. Now, later on, I learned that as long as you're buying from one of the top 5 or 6 well-established disability insurance companies and you have your own occupation policy, the micro language doesn't really matter that much. And I'm stuck with that expensive policy till date. Now, through med school, residency, and all the research years and fellowships, I never had time to read about finances. But once I graduated and finished all my board exams, I actually had time to read about personal finance. And this kind of became a full-time hobby and interest. And over the last, 4 or 5 years, I've read a lot about it, and I've read several books. I've spent a long time on YouTube and different podcasts. And finally, I think I gained enough confidence to go ahead and fire my financial advisor a few years ago, and I couldn't be happier. I've been managing my own personal finances for the last few years, and it's just been an excellent journey. I've helped several friends through their investing questions, and I've even helped my parents try to figure out their own retirement, and now I'm helping others through this channel, Money Matters MD. I don't want you to think that our financial advisor just gave us really bad advice. There's a bunch of good things I learned from him as well. So here's 4 things that I can list. So first one is he introduced us to high-yield savings accounts, which are great to keep your emergency fund in. The second thing is he kept us on the schedule for annual contributions to our Backdoor Roth IRA accounts. And the third one is he helped us consolidate our 401k accounts from previous employers because we kind of had left a trail behind, and that was convenient. And the fourth one is, he introduced us to the concept of PSLF, which is a Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. But we didn't eventually end up going for it. We decided to just pay our loans off by ourselves, but it was just convenient thing to know about. So as you can tell, there's, a lot of good advice and a lot of bad advice that you get from a financial advisor, and you have to do a good amount of due diligence on your part. So I would definitely recommend that you still, seek financial or seek personal finance education and be smart enough to try to figure out what's good versus what's bad. So here are a few take-home points. Don't blindly follow any financial advisor's advice. Educate yourself enough so that you can figure out what's good advice and what is bad advice. I want you to keep your fees low. Pay special attention to any AUM fees or mutual fund expense ratios, and absolutely avoid any loaded funds out there. You really don't need them. Whole life insurance policy is rarely a policy which fits your plan the best. Just remember, this is a policy meant to be sold, not really to be bought. You're much better off buying a term life insurance policy and investing the difference. Focus on paying off your high interest debt first. Debt payoff is a difficult topic, but the interest rate on your debt is probably one of the most important factors helping you figure out how fast or slow you need to be in paying this debt off. And last but not the least, just educate yourself. You probably don't need a financial advisor if you can educate yourself enough and read enough and learn from others, and you can probably DIY your personal finances. If you can just spend 15 minutes a week or maybe 1 hour a month learning about personal finance topics, I'm guaranteeing you, in about 1 year or so, you will learn enough that you will fire your own financial advisor and move on. So scroll down and comment down below if you ever received any bad advice from your financial advisor. Now, I have a separate video on how a financial advisor can cost you up to 1/4 of your entire net worth. And if you're interested, go ahead and watch that video. If you learned something useful today, please like and share my video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for your time. Money Matters MD, over and out. The Money Matters MD show is for educational and entertainment purposes only. This is not financial, legal, tax, or medical advice. The opinions and views presented on this channel do not represent my employers or affiliates in any way.